I'd love to inspire. I love to inspire. Nothing would please me more than to inspire young gay men and women to be themselves, whatever that happens to be, you know. Oh, and to be, you know, to cultivate their genius and to be daring and to take chances and you know, that's a legacy I'd like to have. I think that would be marvelous.
Gay and lesbian seniors today truly were pioneers for the gay and lesbian community. When they were coming of age, they did not have any role models that they could look up to.
In those days, it was a matter of playing the game according to certain rules, and if you were straight, you looked a certain way, and if you were gay a certain way, as long as you didn't call it by its real name.
June 27th, 1969. The Stonewall Inn, Christopher Street, Greenwich Village. Not the first time New York City police raided a downtown gay bar, but the first time the patrons fought back.
It was like Martin Luther King and the Black Movement. It was the same thing. Enough. Just plain enough of not being able to be who you are.
Stonewall was not a great significance for us. I'm sorry to say that. And I think that might apply to a good many guys and girls who only years later began to realize what Stonewall was, a breaking of the floodgates of the gay revolution. And we're still feeling that, of course.
Decades later, it's a different world, and the older gays and lesbians who've seen so many changes find that their work is not yet completed.
You find as you get older, there's no way to sustain life unless you give back to the big picture.
And by giving back, they find meaning for themselves.
If someone wants to know about the life of an older gay or lesbian, or wants to understand the situation of older gays and lesbians, the question is, tell me about yourself. What is your story?
Bye. Okay. Give me a call about where to meet, okay?
Okay. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
We met at the Gay and Lesbian Center on 13th Street. I had come to New York in February, and this was, I think, April. I'd gone to a dance there, and I was standing there looking at the dance floor, and this woman came up to me and said, "Do you do this stuff?"
Dick was my anchor and both my anchor and the source of all my energy. He would, when I get too complacent, he'd stir me up, and that I would go ahead and live again for a while. Who wrote it in the book that he dies first, I have no idea, and I will never forgive whoever wrote that. And he had a trick heart, we both knew that. When he died, I was numb, I was paralyzed. It took me, I suppose, the first year before I began to realize that he was really not coming back, ever. And this is whatever I had then was what I was going to have for the rest of my life.
I want to paraphrase a quote from the great philosopher Jung, who said about the last years of life that they must not be viewed simply as an appendage to the earlier years, that they have a meaning and a purpose in life of their own.
At 7 o'clock tonight, there's a screening at the Beat.
The later years is a time when one must resolve all of the years that you've lived, to come to some sense of peace and reconciliation of what you have lived. And if you cannot be yourself, if you continue to hide what's the essence of yourself, you can never go in peace, and you can never give back the wisdom that you've learned through the years of your struggle. And that would be a sin.
The difference between current seniors and younger members of our community is informed by the amount of anti-gay bigotry and hatred that they experienced growing up. We were subject to arrest because of who we danced with in clubs or who we might have held hands with. At all levels of society, we were seen as the worst of the worst. And of course, that has no matter how healthy one's self-esteem is, it has a profound impact.
I had a dear gay friend who committed suicide because when he was 28, because it was just so tough in Colorado in 1944. It was. So that probably colors my sense of how tough my generation had it in comparison with younger generations. And it's not that I'm saying that it's an easy road to hoe now, but that the older generation did make a path.
My mother was black, my father was white, and anybody knows you're being raised at that time. It could be difficult because of my light skin. But I had a grandfather that told me if I didn't stop running and face reality, I'd be running all my life, so I stopped. I was 15. I don't run from anything any longer.
I think it's important for all of us to remember that gay history was being made well before Stonewall, and that there were many gays and lesbians that were living very full lives, very full and rich lives before, quote, Stonewall and, quote, coming out.
I was a child prodigy piano player. So it was fairly clear to me that my future was going to be in music, that I was going to be a performer. I was a performer from about the age of 6 on the piano, and I was very successful. I met Sam in a gay bar in downtown Chicago. We were shooting on the outskirts of Chicago, and he lived downtown, and we were immediately attracted to each other and became, you know, fast friends, fast lovers, fast whatever. And even though we were both diagnosed HIV positive in 1985, and in the early 90s, he started getting very sick with cryptococcal meningitis and started dying visibly and deteriorating. And when he finally did die, I took the unfortunate turn to just, instead of facing my grief and realizing that I had to take responsibility for all the things he had done, like paying the income tax and the rent and everything else, I withdrew from society and in essence became a drug addict and absolutely almost destroyed myself and destroyed my career. I wanted to die too. I got my first commission only a few weeks ago. The first commission I've had in about since my lover died, when I stopped writing music.
Yeah, well, Dick and I got together in Detroit on January 12, 1948. We started a love affair in Ann Arbor that simply involved our entire lives. We were sort of the Bobbsey twins, and as I wrote in one point, the term Rex and Dick became one word. And that's the way we lived up until the time Dick died. I guess I decided that I was going to have to get off my duff and work, and not work to work, but be active. But I've been working with an outfit called SAGE.
Yeah.
And I
The acronym SAGE stands for Senior Action in a Gay Environment. The underlying basis for all of SAGE's work is to be that arm of our community that provides support and a sense of family and a sense of belonging for our seniors. The majority of gay and lesbian youth do not have any models or images of aging. And what are our models but our parents, our grandparents, but those are straight. And I didn't, as a gay man, I didn't understand what it meant not to have those models until I came and started to volunteer and work at SAGE. But it has been so enriching to have seniors in my life and to have a sense of my own future.
I think there's a debt that younger gays and lesbians have to the older ones that is the same kind of debt that any generation has to the pioneering generation before it.
We've realized also that many younger lesbian and gay people never give 1 minute's thought to aging. There's so much of a bar mentality among so many. They think that that's it. Once you're about 35, you just fall off that bar stool, right? Fly away into infinity or whatever, or maybe
Rainbow heaven.
or maybe they think they go straight.
And I look at the people around me here in Chelsea, I see that it is principally an aesthetic matter to be gay. It's not an intellectual one. It's not a matter of justifying your existence on terms of philosophical grounds, but more on the way you look and whether your body is perfect. Gay men have so stylized masculinity that they have taken what they considered the perfect straight man, the perfect body, and made it better, and they embody that, they personify it.
If we as a community, particularly the gay male community, put such a high value and premium on looking young and being young as the source of our own pride, it means then that when we lose that, the whole question is, what is there left for us?
I don't want to get into the whole idea of ageism within the gay community, but it's very serious.
Did you read this article about resources for community-based services, taking money from Medicare?
We have a lot in common and a lot of differences. And the commonality brought us to start Pride Senior Network. And that is something that has taken on a life of its own now.
Pride Senior Network is an advocacy and education organization on behalf of older lesbians and gay men.
Because we've got the funding now for an executive director and an outreach coordinator.
We see ourselves as a bridge between the aging service network that we both had worked in, and Nancy still works in, and the older part of the lesbian and gay community.
What would happen when I had to go to a nursing home and the person that I'm dependent on giving me a bath in the morning is homophobic? You know, I'd have to go back into the closet, essentially. I mean, it's an awful feeling. So that's what we decided to do, that try to put our presence out there to the aging world and say, look, we're here and we want the same services you give other people.
You never heard about older gays and lesbians until a minute ago. You know what I mean, until the last several decades.
So I think we've become a presence. I think that probably by the time we go downstairs, that our doorman says, look, they're the two old dykes. So.
It's tight.
Tight.
Well, not really tight.
How's that?
It's perhaps the most satisfying thing because it's something that we can display to the world as a result of our duo. We're living proof of what relationships on an ongoing and in a sense of being older can be within our community.
You know, at first I was thinking, oh, I can never love again because I'm defective goods. I'm not only over 60, I'm HIV positive. Who would ever love me? You know, what nonsense. The fact that they would, what they see would be what they would love. In other words, instead of my spirit. I'm incorporating my recovery from addiction into my work, into my artistry. I'm writing a play about it, which includes music, and I appear in it and sort of philosophize about how it took this crisis of HIV and drug addiction and a near approaching death and suicide before suddenly, you know, the gates began to open. So I'm eager to share that. My goal is to be able to heal myself before I die. In terms of to forgive myself. To heal myself is to forgive myself. To forgive myself and to forgive everybody else who's ever judged me. That's my goal.
I think the most important thing for me today is doing something intelligent with these letters, by which I mean maybe publishing a volume of them. After Dick and I went to Detroit, we spent a spring and a summer of just wild love affair in Ann Arbor. That fall, this is the fall of '48, I went to New Orleans to teach, and he came to New York to go to the Theater Guild. And I don't really know how it started, but we started writing to each other. We wrote to each other nearly every night. And how they got saved, I will never know, but something like 600 of those letters are still in existence. Midnight, August 26, 1948. Hi, Junior. I'm curled up in bed with a gallon of iced tea. I don't want to become a stone around your neck. Maybe I had the wrong part of the anatomy. But a stone which keeps you from concentrating on what you're doing. There's nothing we didn't talk about in writing. From reading them, you couldn't tell whether they were written today or 50 years ago. And I wish you'd take a little more sober view of things when you have so damn much at stake out there. I'm not slapping you down, Dick, believe that. But I am trying to paddle your fanny enough to get you back so you fly right again. You have such a nice little fanny to paddle. The best part of the letters is when young people read them, because they look upon anything pre-Stonewall, certainly, as being prehistory, and nothing went on back there. Well, these are a whole set of the wildest love letters you can ever imagine.
I get mad at some people my age that is disrespectful to the younger people because I said, you know, this is wrong. I said, you know, you wouldn't get old so fast if you had more younger people around you and you listened. Don't preach, listen, discuss, talk. If they ask you something, don't sugarcoat it. If they ask you one-on-one, tell them the way it is, or how it was.
I believe passionately in the interdependence of generations, and so I believe passionately in the interdependence of the generations of gays and lesbians.
Interestingly enough, for the 3 years that we have been with Pride Senior Network, I've begun to get calls and inquiries and questions from younger people who are beginning to realize that there are older people and some historical perspective that needs to be looked at in terms of the lesbian and gay world. And yet, I hear them asking themselves questions that we never asked ourselves, such as, with this liberation of sexuality, is that all we got? Am I belonging to a group that is known only for its sexual practices? What are the value systems that I will be identified with? And that bothers a lot of people. So we didn't have that. We were fighting so that you could kiss on the street, so that you could walk down Fifth Avenue wearing 3 green feathers or something. But now it's gone back. So I don't see people or humanity going forward. I always see it coming around in circles.
One thing that I do want to do is give the originals of the letters, in fact, all of our work papers, to some responsible archive, and I can't make up my mind on that yet. I haven't been able to. But but I want to get the papers given away before I kick the bucket. I don't want them to be floating around any place. I want to know where they are, because this is my history. The paper we write on is what was the paper we wrote on 50 years ago.
Those letters are going to be his and his partner's immortality. They will live after he is gone. And a lot of people now find a great deal of meaning in writing about their lives. For some people, it's what I call putting your house in order. And for some people, it's contemplating and reflecting. Some people, social action is very important. Each of us travels our own road, but I think for many of us, there is the knowledge of the scarcity of time and the wish to make as much as possible out of these years.